Did you know that parents rank financial literacy as the #1 most difficult life skill to teach? Meet Greenlight, the debit card and money app for families. With Greenlight, you can send money to kids quickly, set up chores, automate allowance, and keep an eye on your kids' spending with real-time notifications. Kids learn to earn, save, and spend wisely, and parents can rest easy knowing their kids are learning about money with guardrails in place. Try Greenlight risk-free today at greenlight.com/Wondery.
All right, Monday night sports talk. Suchi Boy couldn't make it through the snowstorm. He'll be here next week, and we'll be rolling again. Reavers and Reusse, a reunion. We should have had Manny Hill here. We should have gotten Manny Hill here.
I had a Ryder with Reusse reference the other day when I cited the Wolves as a bad loss.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that was a bad loss. But Bobby Hagan's retirement ceremony out at Vikings Thursday.
Yes.
I think Reusse got invited. He and Reusse and
they were tight.
Reusse and Bobby, and maybe Manny might be there too. I'm not sure if Manny's coming in, but
well, congrats to Bobby on a great career.
Great career. He was the survivor, baby. You make it through all those administrations that want the story spun. That's pretty successful.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
You know, I know how much you loathe when someone says, I got a book idea. Tell me you'll write the Bob Hagan book.
If he's not the kind of guy that would tell the secrets.
That's true. He would not.
He would not tell the secrets. But here's a guy. He was as close to Sid in the last 20 years as anybody. He would take Sid to lunch and just listen to the BS. And then he was really tight with Dark. You know, I mean, he found one of the guys that found Dark dead.
Yeah.
And he would get them together at lunch once in a while and referee the same quibbling those of you enjoyed on Sunday.
The Sunday sports
show was on steroids when they were having lunch there together without an audience, because Sid, of course, Dark would show up at those lunches with only one, goal, which was not to, he liked eating too, but to needle Sid, to agitate Sid, and he'd get him rolling, and Hagan twice a month, he'd have lunch twice a month with Sid, at least, sometimes sometime weekly, but he'd get Dark and then he'd Dark too, but then he'd get them together about 10 times a year.
Oh my God.
Have to referee that, which
that's a reality
show.
show.
What his secret of success was, though?
What's that?
He was a great guy. Everybody loved him. Never told you anything out of school.
That's right.
He never, they could never trace anything they didn't want public or
back to
any
him.
Inside material back to him.
Yep.
He was, hey, how you doing? But he didn't talk out of school. He didn't lie to you. He didn't tell you the truth either. He just whatever they publicly released, he talked about it. He'd get you people on the telephone. He did all that stuff, but he did not talk out of school, which is, unlike Pat Forcia, who, when he was in a similar type of role, he would.
Just dealing with Bob, obviously wasn't as close to him as you are, but great guy. He always was, if he needed to schedule a guest or whatever, he was great in assisting that. But I will give him this credit. I know you remember this when, sadly, the young man that passed away as a result of the construction at U.S. Bank Stadium.
Yes,
he happened to be a kid from my hometown, and he went to school with my brother. And Bobby was the one that helped assist getting him a jersey for his brother, which was really cool and meant a lot to the family back then. That was all Bob Hagan. He's the one that I was corresponding with to make that happen. That was all Bob. And just a true class act.
He was close with Zim, close with all of them. He still is, but he was. I don't think he has this last year. He basically has been phased out, and Jeff Anderson now has that PR job. And but I'm not sure if this means he's
Done, retired?
Done, or just not going to be publicly. But anyway, good for him.
Well, if the ride with Reusse comes back, he can be our intern.
He got the place up. He's got the lake place up north, too.
There
the
you
old
go.
family lake place that they love to go up there fishing and stuff like that. So he's got all that. But anyway, somehow we ended up getting on that topic. But this is Monday Night Sports Talk.
Hey.
There's only the two of us, and we got to BS our way through 20 minutes.
Because knowing that you and I were going to do this show, I watched nearly the entire round yesterday at the Genesis Invitational.
Pretty good stuff.
Wow, was that a good
What
finish?
a great golf course. I mean, they were talking about like 18 up the hill, you know, 18, big elevated green like that. Nance talked about 2000, I believe, maybe a little earlier than that when he was first covering it. They used to hit 3 woods into the 18th green.
Oh, wow.
Some of them. Now they're hitting pitching wedges.
Yeah.
So for these old courses to be able to defend themselves, considering that they aren't that much longer, and these guys are hitting the ball 100 yards further off the tee than they were 20-some years ago, to have these old courses able to defend themselves is pretty amazing. And I'll tell you one thing. Those greens were lightning, weren't they?
Oh.
Some of those par fours, the one par 4, you could hit the ball down on the front left of the green. It would roll off the back. If you didn't get that thing high enough and spin it, it would just keep going and going and going.
On 18, it's Homa, right? Is that how you pronounce his last name?
Homa, yeah.
His caddy was saying, you know, they got to make up 2 against Rahm, and he said, looks at him, he says, should we go for it? Because he knew if he drove it, you know, not give it as much height, that it would roll forever and get closer to the pin. So you saw him kind of negotiating that at the end.
Well,
there.
he ended up hitting the pin, right?
Yeah,
he hit
on the second shot.
Yeah, on the second shot, which would have then made John Rahm have to get the par, have to get up and down there.
I didn't realize Rahm was that good of a putter.
Oh. Well, because
I know he's a beast and can drive the ball.
They said on I wasn't in the car when it finished, but I was in the car when it finished, so I was listening to golf on the radio, which is always interesting. But one of their analysts said he hit the tee ball all week as crooked as he can at a place that has pretty good size rough and narrow fairways, and he still won because he's up. You know, they do this whole strokes gain.
Yep.
For the tournament, he gained from approach shots, and then, which is starting with your approach shot, okay? He gained 12.5 strokes on the field. So he was 12.5 strokes, but that's a huge number.
Yeah.
And so his approach shots, even when he was in the rough, were immaculate. So, but how about Tiger hitting the damn thing 300? With 1 foot.
I couldn't
see him when
believe
he's
it.
walking up the hill. He's limping like crazy, and I don't think he's doing it for effect.
Well, no, he's not. And you can see that everyone was kind of waiting for.
Doesn't plant his foot.
Well,
no.
but as the weekend went along, was he going to be able to hold up? Because that was what everyone was worried about. And even in that, I think it was after the second round, he was telling the gal that he was interviewing with, yeah, I'm really sore. You know, I don't know how I'm going to feel tomorrow.
You know, Saturday he shot 67. Sunday he was worn out. He did do something extremely stupid with the tampon on
with
Thursday, but it's just, I mean, it's Tiger, so they'll let him get away with it.
Sure.
But you can still learn lessons at 46 or whatever it is.
I'll say.
But you know what tells you? He's getting older, though. Male pattern baldness.
Oh, when he took the hat off.
Had a baby. Can he afford to get a little hair?
Or is
back
it just
here?
he says, I'm
What
Tiger.
the hell
What the
with
hell
it?
do I
I'm
care?
Tiger. Yeah, still. But it was great to see the PGA Tour have such a good event with the Live boys not even playing yet. You didn't watch the Golf Channel at all, did you?
No.
I said there's my 3 favorite things about golf right now. I said this on Twitter. Tiger hitting it over 300 on Tiger
leg.
crushing it off the tee on one leg. John Rahm playing unbelievable stretch of golf. and Brando Chambly's incessant hate for Liv. I mean, he just goes after, he just disembowels them on Twitter, on the air. He just hates them. It's fantastic. And my wife is watching there's a series on Netflix now.
Okay.
You know, since Netflix did all that thing for Formula One.
Okay.
By
Oh,
going
yeah,
and
yeah,
doing
yes,
that. I mean,
yeah.
they made Formula One
Very popular
again. I mean, with 1% of the population, but they're doing that in golf now, inside the golf, and it's not a PR version of it. You know, it's a real life look. It's covering. It's inside the PGA Tour, but there's a lot of live stuff and shows video of them playing with each other.
Okay.
McIlroy and Koepka, and now mortal enemies, and it's pretty good. I guess I haven't started it yet, but it's she's into it. I was trying to explain.
And that's her thing, though. She loves watching that kind of stuff. Yeah.
She likes sports. She likes 30 for 30s and stuff
Right.
like that. If the Super Bowl's on live, she won't come down and watch it. But if she can get some inside.
But if
look,
the OJ documentary's on, she's got it covered.
I think she's got that one down pat, though. She has got it
Memorized.
really down pat. Yeah.
So I was going to ask about this, and I know this is Tiger's baby, basically the Genesis Invitational. But where does it rank in terms of? I mean, they had a great field for this tournament.
Well, see, there's this. I'm going to talk to Hollis about this. There's, as a response to Liv, they have now come up. They've raised the purses tremendously for. Well, there's 17 events called, what do they call them? Oh, God, what's the term?
Look it up.
There's a term for them. But some of them are the majors, and three of them are the World Golf events. There's about 8 or 10 weekly events.
Is it the Elite Series?
The designated tournament, or not, it's not a designated tournament.
The PGA Tour designated events?
Designated events,
Okay.
yes. This is a designated event. Last week was too. And the best players on the PGA Tour, the highest ranked guys have agreed to play in these.
You're not kidding about the purses here. Holy cow.
Played in these, yes. They upped it. So what they've done is left the other 15 weekly events or so, 16 weekly events, including ours, where you got to get some of these. You might get 2 of the top 20, and you're going to have to sell it. You're going to have to sell it as best you can.
Yeah, because this one had the Genesis Invitational had a purse of $20 million. Mm-hmm. The next one is March 2nd through the 5th, the Arnold Palmer Invitational. That also has a $20 million purse.
Yeah, and the TPC was obviously was already a huge event. And the TPC, the players is actually that's a tour event too. So,
because what did Rahm take home for winning it yesterday? Do we know?
Must be about 4. I don't know.
Nice little payday.
Yeah.
Yep, you're right. $3.8 million.
He's not the swashbuckling Spaniard that Seve was. First of all, he hits it fairly straight. He hasn't hit it straight this time, but his real name is Rodriguez. I mean, Rahm is his middle name, but just to kind of distinguish himself from the other Spaniards, he goes by John Rahm.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what a player. Man alive. He doesn't have a lot of, he's pretty straightforward out on the course. He seems friendly stuff.
I was going to say, it seems like the other players genuinely like him, but he does have that little bit of what Tiger used to have, where when he's in the lead and he's looking at you to make that putt, you feel a little intimidated.
Yeah, I feel this Homa he's been playing good for about 2 years now. He's a putting fool, and L.A. kid. It is funny how L.A. can adopt. He's one of ours.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, you got 14 million people
right there in your backyard.
It's not like he's from Bowabic or something, and you say, "Oh, he's one of ours," But they had a huge crowd out there.
Well,
I don't think I'd like to be walking that golf course at my advanced age.
Oh no,
up that hill, that last hill.
Thank you.
And then
Because it's
And Tiger, he hadn't given in, man. He could have gotten the cart ride up the hill to the clubhouse, and
said
that's
no?
really in the valley. Because it's a canyon, basically.
I was going to ask, because in proximity to downtown, where is it? Is it closer to the water? Or which way is it?
I think it says it's 2 miles to the ocean, but they're in a canyon, one of these many canyons. Was Riviera where OJ played? I think, wasn't it?
I don't know.
He was in one of the private clubs. I think it was there.
OJ played.
So, yeah. So I don't know. I might have told you guys this before.
How about this? On the morning of June 12th, 1994, OJ played his usual foursome at the Riviera Country Club in Pacific Palisades.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And then the murders took place?
Well, he said perhaps tellingly, he and one of his buddies got into a violent argument, almost coming to blows right then and there on the second hole.
Wow. So he was in a bad mood.
He was in a bad mood.
Really bad mood. But it was a few days later, though, wasn't it? Wasn't it a little later?
Yeah.
Maybe. No, it was a while before they zeroed in on him, right? Because the day before the World Cup started was when the Bronco chase was.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was what? We took about 10, 11 days to realize he was the murderer, right?
I think so.
Yeah,
I'm trying
the World Cup started like 12th, 13th, 14th, something like that.
All I know is in Mr. Harvey Schultz algebra class, we knew it was serious because he said, "Time out, everybody. We have to put on the news." That's when we knew it was a big deal at Faribault Senior High School.
The next day, I was at the World Cup opener at
Washington?
Giant Stadium.
Giant Stadium, okay.
Giant Stadium, Ireland versus Italy. And as I covered 4 World Cup matches, and I basically covered the parking lot for all 4 because I didn't know what the hell I was watching. I couldn't break it down.
Right.
So I talked to the Irish, of course, because I knew they'd be drunk. And Jesse, yeah, to quote Jesse Ventura, we knew they'd be drunk. So, and I found about 2 or 3 great groups of Irishmen, and they were so upset because there was no World Cup coverage on TV Friday.
Oh.
Because every channel is this white lorry driving around. Where's the World Cup coverage? This is the World Cup.
They were so mad.
They had no World Cup coverage in New York because all we had was this white lorry driving around. And I said, well, he's a pretty well-known guy. And
it's kind of a big deal around these parts.
Say he killed his ex-wife and a waiter. So,
right. They can't take that away from you.
No, you can't take that away from you.
Oh, I got to find that in honor of. Hold on. Let me see if I can find that. That was Norm, right?
Norm. Hell yes.
Oh, my God.
1995 ESPYs. Charles Woodson, 1995.
Norm's first and only appearance
Yes.
hosting the ESPYs.
Not only did he not post them again, he wasn't allowed to attend.
Give me a second. It's going to take me a
Well,
minute.
they also had the Anthony Mason joke, which was
that's right.
even more inappropriate because
Anthony got into a little bit of a trouble.
I think there was an 8 or 10-year-old girl that was honored there. And he said, even too young for Anthony Mason. And that's when the crowd went,
Oh, no.
God almighty.
Let's see if we got it here. Norm at the ESPYs.
Charles Woodson, how about that? Huh? What a season he had. Great, man. He became the first defensive player to win the Heisman Trophy. And congratulations, Charles. That is something that no one can ever take away from you. Unless you kill your wife and a waiter, in which case... all bets are off.
The best, though, and I've said this before, citing that clip, is you see they have the camera on Norm, and then of course they pan to the crowd to get the crowd reaction. You see Charles Woodson, but sitting right next to him is Ken Griffey Jr. And Ken Griffey Jr. gives a no, he did not just say that, shaking his head like he did not just say that.
Oh yeah, that some of the brothers in the crowd.
Oh my God, it was so funny.
Couldn't believe it.
Speaking of him, I saw this just the other day. There's a great clip of, did Michael Jordan, when he was pretending to play baseball. Did he attend an All-Star game, or was he invited, or was it at one of the years was at Wrigley Field or something? Well, in any event,
show up for the home run derby. I can't remember.
He's sitting there.
He couldn't have batted sixth for the Chanhassen Redbirds.
Oh, he couldn't.
I guarantee you, what a swing!
But he was getting autographs from Ken Griffey Jr. and Puck. At the All-Star game, he had to have been in the clubhouse. So I don't know if it was at Wrigley Field or whatever.
Yeah.
But he's sitting there just like he was a kid having them sign his hat. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was. That story has still never been told.
Why he really tried to play baseball?
They all think it was that he was going to get suspended for gambling. And he came up with he retired, and then he decided to fulfill his dream of playing baseball. But the good thing is he bought him a bus, right?
Yeah, the Birmingham Barons.
Barons, yes.
I
saw him play.
Managed by, do you remember who his manager was for the Birmingham Barons? Way back when. He was a great quote, too, saying, yes, swing could use a little work.
Yeah, what?
Terry Francona.
Really?
Yes.
That's right. Terry Francona. I saw him play. I went down and saw him play.
Where did you see him at?
Against the Nashville whatevers, the Twins Farm Club, the AA Farm Club was in Nashville.
Chattanooga?
No, Nashville.
No, Nashville. Okay,
they were in Nashville then.
Okay,
Eddie and those guys were down there. I think.
Really?
And I saw him play. I said, oh my God, he can't hit.
He can't hit.
Can't hit.
But those owners didn't care because there were 30,000 people at every game.
Well, not really, but he didn't draw 6 or 8 or.
Oh, was it? Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Well, the Birmingham ballpark, I think maybe they had their new stadium by then, but they had Rickwood, which was the oldest ballpark in America, basically, this old wooden grandstand that still stands, I believe. It's a historic old ballpark, and I think they'd already moved to a different ballpark then.
Okay. So. And that's what I was getting a little bit jealous, Pat, because this morning the boys and we always watch the Fox 9 because they stay local. And they had the live report from Fort Myers this morning, and I thought,
"Ooh, who's doing the news?"
Rich was down. Jim Rich was down.
Oh,
Rich
was covering it.
Yeah,
Rich was covering it. Yeah,
that's when you get a little jealous.
One of my worst things I ever did to a human being. Passolt was down there for 11. He brought 6 shirts to the ballpark, and the day that they had like the formal interview media day,
sure,
I couldn't figure out what was going on. He'd interview whoever it was, he'd interview somebody.
Yep.
Then he'd take a break and he'd go change his shirt. And then he basically, what a genius! He basically played golf for the next 5 days and had him sit back. Now, good thing nobody got hit in the head with a baseball.
Right.
But this was before they were playing games. This was like the first day that he was so mad at me. We're buddies. I mean, we get along fine. He's great, but it was really.
How did you bust him? Because this is way before social media.
I said, these games are so exciting. Something about Passolt is a variety of shirts or something as he does these interviews. I wonder why.
Now, you're wondering, too, because if you're back at the newsroom and he's sending you the B-roll, to run for the 6 o'clock that night, you're thinking, man, how come the sun angle's at the exact same spot every time he's talking to Dave Winfield?
Well, I think that Nestle was probably with him. I think Richie was still alive then. But he was tied in with the photographer would come out every day.
Oh, sure,
was shooting. But he was, Jeff loved the game, man. Loved to play golf. And he had, I don't know how many, he was there a week. And 5 days, probably 5 shirts.
That is spectacular.
All cleaned and pressed and looking great. Too late now, though. He's living down there in Naples or something, so they can't.
Enjoying the good life.
Yeah, he is. I saw him at, when was it? I wasn't there last spring, so 2020 I went to the, 2021 I went to the senior opener at Naples. To see Lumpy.
Oh, sure.
And also COVID was still going on.
Yep.
And Jeff and his wife were down there following Lumpy around.
Because they just had the the senior tour
Yeah,
in Naples, right? This past weekend.
This week.
Okay.
The opener used to be in Boca. That was the one my stepson ran for a while.
Oh, that's right.
And but then that thing moved to the end of the season where it's one of their playoff events in Boca. So the Naples is they have one in Hawaii, their own tournament of champions, but the mainland opener is in Naples now. They're in trouble though, man.
Really?
When 65-year-old Bernard Langer is still your superstar and he won yesterday, some of these
Is
guys,
it because a lot of these
making too much? They made too much damn money, I think, and
they don't want to play.
Phil is playing for a live and getting his millions, and they don't. There's no. I don't know. They got a hard time. They're getting the second tier players when they turn 50. Tiger Woods might play a Senior Open, but he's never going to play
he's not going to play regularly.
Not regularly out there on the senior tour, and now you have the designated events, and then you have the other events, and then you have the Corn Ferry Tour. There's a lot of golf for TV, right?
Sure.
So, anyway.
Speaking of the Twins, I have to issue a grievance with Bally Sports North.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
So I set the recorder to record the Diamond Awards because the boys, wanted to watch Patrick give the speech and had to see Joe introduce him and all that. And so I recorded it, and so we zipped through. I go, well, Patrick's is more towards the end.
Yeah.
And so we zipped through it, and there we see Dan Barrera. Okay, here we go. Dan's going to introduce, then Joe, or Lavelle was first, then Dan, then Joe, then you. So we get to you, and we start talking. So I'm waiting for the great cheap shot you take at Rocco. They cut it out.
They cut it out.
They edited it out.
I wondered if they would.
I was so angry that they got rid of it.
Really?
Well, and I
was wondering if they would.
And I was thinking, okay, well, and it wasn't even really that bad of a cheap shot. I didn't
there's
think.
A lot of things about baseball that I don't like, but Rocco's here, so I'm not going to say anything.
Well, that was that, but then
I also said,
the relief pitcher that passed away.
Bill Campbell.
Thank you.
Bill Campbell, I said. 410 innings, Rocco. 3 years. You'd like to get that out of one of your starters. And, I thought maybe they would.
So I get it.
I said, when I got done, afterwards I was talking, I said, if they need to cut a couple of minutes, I think I know where they're going to go.
Right.
So that's fine. I don't care.
I know, but I personally just wanted to see it.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, that's I'd say that there was some nervous laughter, didn't you say? I mean, there was some
not
hard
me, not at our table. I was laughing my ass off. Are you kidding me?
Some hard laughter, but some nervous. I think they were.
Oh,
I think they were hoping that I wouldn't follow form, but I figured I had to.
So because that was a Thursday night, correct?
Mm-hmm.
When the original event was a Thursday night. So the next day, we come in here to do the show. And Joe and I were briefly just, hey, it was a good time. I thought we got out of there a pretty decent hour, too.
Yeah,
I thought it was going to be a lot later anyway. And so Joe said, well, how did I do? And I said, well, you're fine, I said, here's the only thing, because I've heard the family of Lou Wangberg. I've heard the story a million times. It was still funny. And I said, but here's the only problem. I don't think 90% of your audience even knew who Al Quee was.
No, that's the trouble, yeah.
I said that it doesn't hurt the joke itself, but I just said I don't think a lot of people knew who Al Quee was.
Yes, well, I said, and the line has been found alive.
Oh, it was.
Yes,
can relax.
He's been found alive, Lou. I know, but I wrote that in addition to.
Oh, you did.
In addition to saying it, I had it deleted. So
the only thing I wish Joe would have done is gone to further length about how much he was despised originally as a Twins beat reporter in the clubhouse. That's the only thing I wish.
Not so much in the clubhouse, but by his fellow travelers, Fowler and Reusse, who said, this guy's an idiot. He wants Tony to leave it a pinch hit 5 innings after he left the game. He doesn't
Why
know
can't they bring back Oliva in the game to hit?
Yeah. Said, don't put that in your game story, dummy. Yeah.
Well, he admitted, didn't he admit that?
I tell you what, though, he was a great sports writer because he saw stuff that the rest of us didn't, because it was so familiar to us that we didn't hardly find it interesting, but he could make it interesting.
Because it was unfamiliar to him.
Yeah. It was,
well, then he had met the first Major League Baseball game he ever saw in person was the one he covered?
He covered, yeah, and he forgot to bring his typewriter. He thought he was going to come back to the office and write it. I mean, we had good deadlines back then to compare what we have, but not good enough that you could drive back in.
He brought a legal pad.
Plus, there was more there were more additions than one. Okay, yeah, there was always like the 10:30 or the 10:45. The funniest thing though is the Star Tribune. They had, everybody had their own terminology, and theirs was 10th ad.
Okay.
So when you're writing your running story for the outstate edition, because you got to remember, in the 70s, the Star Tribune circulated all around the state, print editions.
Sure.
And the trucks were getting ready to, they'd drive to Bemidji. They'd drive to Moorhead. And the truck with a game story, hopefully, if you get in, back then they would, it was, if you had a 10:45 deadline, 10:30 deadline, you made every game because they started, So they wanted to get the copy, so all they needed was like 2 graphs when the game ended. Boom, blah blah blah. They won, and this was
Well,
what
11 got
happened.
the win
then,
and whatever. Yep.
And then everything else was so in the 5th inning you'd start 10th ad. So kind of a summary of
what had
however
happened
you
so
wanted
far.
to do it,
Yep.
but 10th inning, 11th ad would be like the 6th inning. If there was something worth noting, 12th ad, 13th ad. Mr. Math could never figure that out. 10 is first because you might have to then write more relevant stuff as a 2nd ad, 3rd ad, 4th ad,
Right.
later in the game. But the 10th ad was your first ad. The sweat would be pouring off his head. He just couldn't fathom that you would have a 10th ad, an 11th ad, and he admits that. And, God almighty, what a beauty.
Oh. Well, the legal pad always gets you because I can just picture him with his little bag and his legal pad.
Yeah. Well, Batson, his first boss was a complete screwball, too. A great writer, but just a weird guy. He didn't want traditional sports writing, because he was weird. He'd write stuff about an old Bible somebody found or something. He was a great writer, but a very... I think there was a long period where he liked his alcohol.
Oh, okay.
And he would like summon John Rowe. Always tells the stories about he'd summon him over a little wagon for a meeting, and he was sitting there drinking, and John sit down, and Batson wouldn't speak for like a half hour, and John would sit there waiting for him to tell him what he was going to tell him, and then he'd say, "Well, I think you're doing a good job." That was it. Now you can leave.
Meeting's over.
Yeah, meeting's over. It was a weird time. And then, of course, they hired Gary Libman, Dr. Gary Libman, with a doctorate in African-American studies from someplace out east and someplace on the West Coast. I mean, decent guy. Worst writer. He suffered more over a paragraph than Gore Vidal did. I mean, it was unbelievable. He just suffered. The famous story about him that I've told is we had the Patriots Day game.
Yes.
Fergie Jenkins starts at 11 a.m. It's 11 a.m. in Boston. Fergie gets us out of there in 2 hours and 1 minute, which for him was long.
Sure. Yep.
Throw it over. So it's 1 in the afternoon, and the deadline is 10:45 at night, right? First deadline, probably 10:15. So Fowler and I go down to the clubhouse. Hell, you spend 45 minutes at the clubhouse getting stuff. Come back up. You write the game story. You get a couple of pops in the
Well, you have to,
in the room. The Boston Red Sox hospitality room was the second greatest in the American League,
Behind Texas.
We're behind only the Twins. Now Texas, once Brad Corbett got in there and they served you drinks during the game, was a little different.
That was a game changer.
With a very attractive young lady coming in the second inning. Would you like a refreshment? Yeah, I'll have a gin and tonic. But
thank you.
thank you. But anyway, Fowler and I are getting in a cab at 4:30. We each wrote 2 stories and stuff, and the next day, the guy running SportsCom, which was back then as they'd send your copy on a Xerox machine, early Xerox machine, was livid. He said, "This guy, we had to climb out of the stadium. He locked it up, and he was still writing. And we got done. He had 12 paragraphs. It was unbelievable. The pain, the agony of writing a paragraph was unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Deadlines were not his friend.
No. But he loved baseball. He thought he would bring a new perspective to it. So
he would have been a great town ball writer, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't think he would have captured the color of the ambience of the town ball game. Speaking of town ball,
yes, sir.
This is our only chance to talk about it because
Joe's not here.
So how is the AB thing lining up? Does it seem to be popular with the people?
Oddly enough, this conversation was being had Saturday between myself and some Jordan Brewer ball players. They'll obviously, it's not going to happen for this year, and I'm not sure if the wheels are in motion enough yet for it to happen for 2024, but it's gaining momentum. They've already gotten rid of the Class A loop.
Yeah.
So now it's just merely a mileage restriction.
A and B will have one tournament, the Class B tournament. A will not. The A tournament is done.
Correct.
And there's still, but they're going to play separately. The Twin Cities leagues and the Outstate Bs are going to play separately.
But what if you wanted me to?
I like it.
I do too. I think because what's happened is obviously A doesn't have. Everybody knows this, but A doesn't have the following that the other classes do. But
they don't have as many teams either.
They don't. But what this will do then is it's going to prevent the guy that lives in Hopkins and doesn't know anybody that runs one of the teams. Well, now he can go play for a Chaska or he can go play for a Meesville or whatever. Whereas before, he was just sitting at home all summer because he doesn't,
Well, did they increase the radius?
No, but what I'm saying is before, that guy, because he lived inside of the 494, 694 loop, he just wasn't playing ball that summer. So I think that'll help in a lot of ways. Since these, the first ring teams, the Chans, the Chaskas.
They're going to put 16 of them into the state tournament?
Yeah, I think that will ultimately increase as we go here.
Or no, 24.
Because you got Pat in one region, you're going to have Elko, Dundas, Northfield, St. Patrick is now a Class B team, and that's just one region.
Wow!
And they're only taking 4.
They're taking 4. Okay.
And Newmarket, I didn't even mention Newmarket.
There's only going to be 4 regions.
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe it's a 24-team tournament. I remember writing about it.
It's going to be 16, I thought, for this coming season. Okay. I could be. I'm willing to be corrected, but I thought it was going to remain 16.
I guess most of the A teams signed off on it, right?
Yeah. I think everybody wants this.
Minnetonka, Miller, Kevin.
But the thing that's been nice too, Pat, is that this isn't your grandfather's state board like it was 15 years ago. They're so much more willing to ideas, and they're so much more willing to even just conversation than they were, hell, even 5 years ago.
And the diversity is impressive.
Very diverse crowd. Very diverse crowd of.
You have Polish guys, German guys, Italian guys, Irish guys, a lot of diversity. There is,
couple of Swedes. We're good.
We got diversity. Lots of diversity. Well, it will be interesting to say the least. The interesting thing, of course, is the Victory East and Victory West are now the powerhouses of the North. But they got like 24 teams up there. They have become up there by Brainerd is the powerhouse of baseball.
What's funny is the championship game that we hosted on Labor Day. It was just neat that a lot of those guys they all grew up playing ball together,
right? Yeah.
On both teams. It was kind of cool. That was pretty neat.
Well, when I drive up to Brainerd on occasion, I always take the back road. I always take 25.
Up
through Pierce because we can stop at Susie's for sloppy joes and stuff. Drive in, but you drive by the Buckman Billy Goats and all these other little towns, and it's there's baseball up there. We don't associate that area as much with baseball.
Well, my knowledge to that area is very, very minute. But getting to know these guys just from hosting the tournament last year, the Buckman guys were cool. I really like to get to know those guys. Those guys were cool.
When Sobieski won it, they had a really strong pitching rotation. Tyler Gendro.
Right, one guy.
Who's pitching? Tyler Gendro. He just pitched 9 innings. Yeah, well, he's out there.
He's going to go give it again.
Yeah, he ended up in was it a bad bike car? Either
can't remember, but yeah, he hurt his
motorcycle
elbow. Something like that, yeah.
Or a car, but anyway. Well, yes, we enjoyed the golf over the weekend.
Oh, I forgot to mention.
The NBA All-Star Game is the biggest fiasco I have ever seen in All-Star games, which is saying something.
Did you tune into it by choice or by accident?
I came across it and said everything else was over, and I turned it on, and I didn't make it through 2 minutes. It's slow motion layup drill is what it is. It's preposterous. And plus, you don't know who's playing for who.
Right.
Why are we having Giannis versus LeBron? What's wrong with East and West? So we know who's playing for what team.
Right.
This is so stupid. It's unbelievable. But anyway, so you couldn't watch that. And the Daytona 500 is like pro wrestling. You drive around for 198 miles. 198 laps, 2.5 miles each. And then
the last two laps take 5 hours.
Somebody hits somebody, which is almost like jumping off the ropes. And so you got the crash, and then you got to start all over again, and then somebody spins out, and you got to start all over again. They try to talk about foreplay. When I went to the Daytona 500, the day Dale died is my last one. I'd been about 4. Noon. You know what they meant when they said you started at noon? They sang the anthem. They said a prayer, of course, because they're Southern rednecks. And they got in the cars and they started driving. Now, 2 o'clock. There's a pregame. There's 2 hours of pregame.
Sure.
Starts at 2. 2:45, and they still haven't started. They're doing all that crap. Somewhere there should be a website that is devoted to just actual starting times.
Right.
Super Bowl. I don't care if it says 5. When is the ball going to be in the air?
When is it kicked?
Yes, I want to see the non-athlete running up to the ball and kicking it out of the end zone.
Right.
And then they're bringing it out to the 20. In fact, I don't even have to see that.
No.
When do they put it at the 25?
First snap.
When do they put it at the 25? You didn't happen to see my, I'm sure that it didn't catch the fancy of a lot of people, but I wrote a column on this Israeli guy who's a record-setting swimmer for the Gophers. Mm-hmm. Bar, and a terribly unpronounceable last name. But Barr, I'm talking to Barr. Barr has one great quote. Early, I said, he's from Haifa, and desert. I said, so how much snow? He said, none, never. And I said, then he pauses and he says, the snow here is okay. I hate the ice.
Oh, yeah.
You can die at any moment on this ice, he said. Yeah. And then at the end, I said, okay. Do you go to other sporting events on campus, football games? He says, football is the stupidest sport there is. They have a play. Then they meet for 20 minutes. Then they have another play. I can't believe Americans go crazy for this game. He said it is awful. It's terrible.
You now have a new favorite athlete in town.
He's fantastic. Barr, he's great. Anyway, if I could only spell his last name, it'd be good. So, Anyway,
There we go.
Joe next week. He'll be back, won't he?
If he's able to find a flight back, I'm sure he'll be here for Monday Night
He's
Sports.
out of town.
Yes.
Good guy. I bet he went someplace warmer than this.
Yes, he did.
That's good.
Yes, he did.
Yes. Well, anyway. Twins, they start the exhibition game Saturday. Right?
Yep.
With a doubleheader, I believe.
Is that
There's
true?
A twin by the
Don't they usually play the Gophers once or something?
Yeah. Are the Gophers down there? Maybe the Gophers are going down. Yeah,
Okay.
I think maybe they are.
Okay.
My Johnny Castino column Sunday, I wrote on John because John has
He wants to fix the game.
To fix the game. 2 and 2 is a full count. 3 is a walk. Ball 3 is a walk. That way the pitchers have to challenge hitters and more action. I kind of like it. It's not going to happen, but I kind of like it. But John, 3rd-round draft choice from Rollins College in the Twins' front yard, basically.
Yeah.
One reason being Calvin saw him hit a home run off Bert Blyleven, except it was a different Italian guy on the team, Ricky Ardello or something like that. But John says, hey, he got me drafted in the 3rd round. I'm all for it.
You're saying scouting might be a bit different these days.
Now, yeah, right. We can differentiate our Italians, that's for sure.
Earl, why are you walking Danny Ford?
The first one he got. God, I miss him. He was the greatest. Earl Weaver, the greatest. Unbelievable. Especially when he was insulting you, which was damn near all the time. All right. See ya. You are inundated with countless home and auto insurance ads surrounding the big game in Phoenix. Did you really listen to those ads? What were they trying to tell you? They are on your side. Let's hope so. They've seen a few things. Well, we all have. And I don't know about this one. You're in good hands? Really? Okay. Or best ever, double check. What are we checking? Their work or ours? What does any of this do for you, by the way? Nothing. They are all only one company with one agent. No options. Call the Canopy Group. Their message is clear. You get 16 companies and 20 professionals. So as your home and auto insurance needs change, the Canopy Group will help you find another insurance company to meet your individual needs. No fancy ads. Just the simple promise of providing you the best insurance coverage at the best price, year in and year out. New clients enjoy an average savings of over $800 with the Canopy Group. Call the Canopy Group at 800-967-3389 or visit thecanopygroup.com. You have heard me discuss my relationship with Josh Arnold for some time. The reason I advocate that you give Josh a call is simple. Trust and results. Josh has seen it all when it comes to economic and market conditions. As has been said through all of our relationship, past results do not guarantee future returns. And while that is true, Josh can make sure that your retirement objectives match your investments. You can understand that Josh will make sure you are not paying more in fees than you are seeing in returns. Yes, that is more common than you would like to think. Do yourself a favor and have a booking with Josh for the 48-minute free evaluation. This is a no-obligation meeting. Call Josh at 952-925-5608. You will be glad that you did.
Investment services offered by Josh Arnold Investment Consultant, LLC, a security investment advisor. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. All investments involve risk. All comments and opinions are Josh Arnold's and do not constitute investment advice.
Patrick Reusse is a paid endorser.